thank the and I want to thank the Smith family. That is a wonderful surprise. I've known Terry for a long time, but that's just so moving up there with the original getting the award, which just knocked me over. So thanks very much, George, for introducing me. And I also wanted to thank you, as you mentioned, for the lobbying, the Washington, D.C. term for all the years to get me over the finish line to get this award. I think that I've won this award once now. I think George is now going to work for his 7th Red Smith Award when he pushes for his next Washington Post person that he hired. George's amazing record, he probably could have 5 more of his hires. I also wanted to thank my wife, Wendy, for her incredible patience. She doesn't understand that she is, to a degree, linked with Red Smith. Red was once asked how long it took to write a column, and Red said, "How long do I have?" And I was like Red, at least in that I absolutely believe that writing is rewriting. And Wendy knew that I would milk every minute till the deadline, and she endured it graciously, even though she might have to hear that Red quote, but even though it left about 1,000 dinners cold. Wendy's a voracious reader. She loves brilliant, insightful writing, so I learned about 40 years ago to have her read my columns about once or twice a year. That's a true story. Finally, I want to thank the APSE for making this one of the happiest and proudest days of my professional life. It's happy because I realized that I was on a first name or a let's go have a meal basis with 30 of the previous winners. So I find myself among friends. It's a proud day because since I first read a Shirley Povich column 70 years ago when I was a boy, I've admired these Red Smith winners. So now I'm among my mentors. I've learned sports writing by osmosis, by reading and watching them closely. In rewriting this, what has become referred to in our house as this damn speech, I've realized how deeply these people have impacted me, right down to helping me decide the shape of my life. I saw how many of them wrote in their hometown for much of their career. They built up a bond of respect, trust, and even affection with readers and with colleagues. Povich wrote in Washington for 75 years. Jim Murray, Blackie Sherrod, Furman Bisher, Edwin Pope, Bob Ryan, Tom McEwen, Joe McGuff, Mary Garber, Cy Burek, Jerry Holtzman, Fred Russell, Jimmy Cannon, Jerry Eisenberg, Bill Millsaps, John Stedman, and Sam Lacey might as well have had their faces, some of them for generations, on the signs that said, "You are now entering Los Angeles, Dallas, Atlanta, Miami, Boston, Tampa, Kansas City, Winston-Salem, Dayton, Chicago, Nashville, New York, Newark, Richmond, and Baltimore. All aboard." These days, add Sally Jenkins and Bill Plaschke to the long runners in DC and LA. In the beginning, I did not expect to have a connection like that. I'm friendly, but not fuzzy. So I said, I write for myself. But I was wrong. With age, what meant the most to me was the link with readers and with colleagues. So this award from peers is precious to me. My parents worked at the Library of Congress. Our Capitol Hill home had a lot more books than bucks, but my dad smuggled me into the stacks of the Library of Congress where children were absolutely not admitted. And I looked, and the rows of books in the stacks of the Library of Congress go 50 yards into the distance, and they come to a vanishing point in the distance. And my dad said to me, "Tommy, here is every book on baseball ever written. Don't go blind. Because of my bookish family, when I got to journalism, I didn't need that much help with the writing. My needs were bigger than that. What Red and Shirley and all those other writers I named and others demonstrated for me with their lives was the kind of behavior and the kind of values that are consistent with credible, accountable, tough, but fair journalism. Oh, and it has to be entertaining. It has to be fun. And there are plenty of days when it has to be joyful or silly, because it's nice to have readers, and you better not bore them. Those writers were models in the way they treated the people they wrote about, and in the way they treated the people they wrote for. And that is not as easy a balance as it seems. They are constantly in conflict. Our technologies change. I started on a typewriter using 6-ply carbon paper and handing one copy to a Western Union operator. Might as well have been the Pony Express. I finished on Twitter, on the internet, and doing a weekly online Q&A chat with readers. But the most important thing did not change. You must build relationships with people. How do you connect with others at a level that lets them tell you their stories in depth, and so that they trust you enough to discuss controversial subjects on the record and as sources? I learned by watching, especially these people that APSE is honored. How closely did I watch them? I first met Red Smith 50 years ago when he and Shirley invited about 10 reporters to dinner. And they also invited the Sports Illustrated swimsuit model of the year, Christy Brinkley. She tended to draw a crowd on the other side of the table. So that left a seat open right near Red. That night at dinner, I learned words from Red that I've tried to live by. He said, "Vodka tonic, hold the fruit." Red was about 70, but he showed up early. He talked to everybody at the ballpark, the stadium, the boxing ring, but not just in group interviews. He had conversations. He wanted to get his subjects one-on-one and really talk with them. Not just the stars, he talked to the backup catchers. After that, whenever possible, I always avoided packed journalism scrums. You will be very familiar with this. You can always find out what somebody said to 10 people. Only you and the reader get to know what one person said to you. What struck me about so many of these Red Smith Award winners was how trusted they were by the same people about whom they sometimes had to write tough stories. If you cover a college sports team, there's going to be an athletic director, a college president, not just the coach who's going to hate you some days. If you cover an entire professional league, there's going to be a commissioner and a billionaire owner, and it's just the hostility is built into the relationship at some point. How do you build that friendly but firm relationship with your professional distance maintained but confidence gained? In the 6 years at the Post, when I was a copy boy or wrote high school sports, you could fit the sports department in a shoebox. Writers I had grown up reading were asking me to put Jack Nicklaus on hold until they finished talking to Muhammad Ali. Povich worked 15 feet away. I could hear his phone interviews. He was in his 60s, but he still loved his job. Silk suit, tie loosened, sense of humor, respected but giving respect, at ease with the people he covered, but still digging for the story. Right in front of me, arm's length away, was Dave Brady, who is in the NFL Hall of Fame, Joan Collins, one of the first women sports columnists in the country, and Bob Addy, who's in Cooperstown. All day they were on the phone. And yes, they were working the phones, not the airplanes, because this was before the Pentagon Papers and Watergate. Yes, that's how old I am. And the Post had a small budget back then, and my $90 a week salary wasn't breaking it. I remember a famous boxing promoter trying to sell Dave Brady on his next big match. Dave wasn't buying. He said, if you held that fight in my backyard, I'd shut the blinds. What struck me was how much fun they were having. They didn't look up at athletes, even the greatest, or down at them. They just talked right to them. They weren't having interviews as much as conversations about the games at the technical level, about the people in the sports, about the controversies, and about the jokes that came up that day, because all of those are things that would fascinate the readers once they learned them. I adopted that relaxed, bantering tone of voice. Be persistent, but respectful. Above all, be honest. It is disarming. It gets respect. If you're going to criticize somebody in print tomorrow, why would you keep it a secret from them today? These days, it's a burden for everybody here trying to do real sports journalism, that you carry the guilt by association of the shock jocks and the online clickbaiters who've never spoken to the people they read. We're now 20 or 25 years into that. I'm glad I'm talking today to people who are news hounds, not publicity hounds, and to the editors who are selecting the people who will be the next generation of news hounds, not publicity hounds. Believe me, the people you cover know the difference. They get a book on you. And that has not changed from the time I covered the Baltimore Orioles with Eddie Murray and Cal Ripken and Earl Weaver to when I was covering the Washington Nationals 15 years ago when they started getting Steven Strasburg and Bryce Harper and Anthony Rendon and Juan Soto. It does not change at any point in the last 50-some years. They get a book on you. Are they the story, or do you think that you are the story? Now, finally, I want to talk about time and about place. I crossed paths with Jim Murray for 20 years. During that 20 years, he was voted the National Sports Columnist of the Year 14 times. Many copied him, none successfully. When he went to the Indianapolis 500, Murray said he was covering the run for the Lilies. On race day, his lead was, "Gentlemen, start your coffins." Murray almost never quoted anybody, but he took notes on every interview in every clubhouse. He did beat writer legwork. He even did it after he lost the sight in one eye and almost all the sight in his other eye and had to have an intern to guide him. Why? Because you can't really know the people or the feeling of the event unless you put in the time and go to the place. Murray read like he was writing off the wall. He was glued to the wall. And that wall can be 5,000 miles away, or it can be 50 miles away. Get in the car and go. Shirley Povich always said, if you go, it will happen. What is it? You'll find out when you get there. I learned the value of putting in time, a lot of time, in one place when I was walking through the stands in Fenway Park with Bob Ryan of the Boston Globe. A really huge fan, about 15 rows, screamed down at us, "Hey, Ryan!" "Keep walking," said Ryan. "Hey, Bob Ryan, I'm talking to you," came the roar. Ryan turned to face his accuser. "Nice column today, Bobby." Ryan just grinned. He said, "Boston." It's hard to understand the connection that a town or a whole region can have with a sports writer, or in some cases with a whole sports section, unless you've lived it. I have. I still have notebooks filled with Washington Post stories from 1957 and 1958 on the Washington Senators, a horrendous team that I loved. It's through the prism of the sports writer's eyes that you formed your views of the people and events that captured your young imagination. We don't have the clout that sports departments did then, but we still have plenty. Because we impact the young and influence opinion, good sports writers are often moralists without an ideology. We don't need to be philosophers because we aren't aiming for truth with a capital T. Applying the golden rule usually works, and making the case for simple right versus wrong, well expressed, still suffices. Povich once shot this lead at DC's racist owner, George Preston Marshall. Jim Brown, born ineligible to play for the Redskins, integrated their end zone 3 times yesterday. Shirley was prepping me on how to write about bad actors like Peter Angelos and Daniel Snyder when my turn came. Spending lots of time in one place, especially in a region that you know inside out. Writing about sports, and that means that you don't write about every sport, but the ones you love. And people that you have studied for many years is just one way to be a sports writer, but it's the one that I know. And I was just copying the masters. It's particularly appropriate today when the news media's credibility, our very ability to assert that a fact, is under attack. Every story you write that gets it right, or gets it as right as you can make it, builds up credibility for the next story. Every time you are unfair, or haven't reported out the facts deeply enough, every time you shy away from taking a stand when a stand needs to be taken, it shrinks everything else that you have done. This is also how you build or erode credibility with your potential sources. They're readers too, and they are weighing you. It takes time, almost an absurd amount of time, to be trusted, so that the people the public want to know about will show you who they truly are, and so that they will help you uncover the hidden realities that the public deserves to know. I want to say again to everybody here today, all of you who are part of this admirable, demanding, challenged institution of journalism, thank you for everything. For the satisfaction of being part of this indispensable enterprise for the last 55 years. Today you've appreciated my work, but I'm the one who's truly grateful.